Actually, I do think this is a better height. I think this works a little bit better. Different chair. Still not the most comfortable chair in the world, and I'm likely to end up with some bruises, but yeah. And maybe it'll help me prevent myself from sitting for frickin' hours on end. Um, but it's got some arms on it. I can sit back like this. It's got a back on it. It's got arms. Super comfortable chair. Well, it's not super comfortable. It needs some padding, is what it needs. Um, but it's higher up, which is a little bit nicer than the last one that I was using. That's a plus. Anyway, so new chairs aside, how are you? All right, so we are headed into April. We are in April at this point. And it is Monday, April 5th, where I currently am. So we are safely distanced from April Fool's Day. Actually, there were a couple days recently where we had holidays to keep track of in early April. We had April Fool's Day, and then we had, what was it? 4, 3, 2, 1, the final countdown. So we've had a couple of days, and then we had Easter, and yeah, I mean, it feels like a momentous start to April. I'm not gonna lie that I haven't been a little bit moody and broody lately after having some health issues kick in and pull me down the stairs, but I want to get back into the swing of doing things because I want this to be a year of projects done. And this month's project is April Fooling Around. And some of that I set up as basically learning to do magic tricks and see if I can do a comedy routine. And I gotta tell you, I have no idea where to start with either of those things. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. So we can do some brainstorming of that. Some of that, I think, is I'm sort of interested. I think predominantly I'm going to focus on the stand-up comedy stuff today. But I might learn a few magic tricks. Not a lot. I think I'll probably do 5 or 6 simple magic tricks or something. I think the routine they say is if you watch what is it, The Modern Rogue or Scam Nation, Brian Brushwood is a channel I watch a fair amount, and he does discussions of how some of his tricks, his scams, his magic tricks, and that kind of stuff, he does what he calls openers, tweeners, and closers. And a really short one could be an opener, a tweener, and a closer. But minimum, I feel like it ought to be an opener, 3 tweeners, and a closer. So minimum 5 things you can do in a routine. If you want to be able to cycle through and do different routines, you will probably want to have at least 2 sets of 5 that you can do one set, do another set, and then build sets from pieces of the other ones. So I feel like you should be able to have at least 5 to 7 of each of the openers, closers, and tweeners. Probably have twice as many. So 5, 10, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 tricks. That's a lot to try to learn to do. So if I were to do magic tricks and stuff like that, maybe just setting up the first, 5, 1 for 5 and 1 for 7, and mix and match them. So 5 tricks, and 5 tricks would be 10, 11, 12 tricks in total. I think 12 tricks is achievable in a month. That's 3 tricks a week. That's doable. I think that could be fun to try to do. But that being said, I really feel like by next year this time, I will be doing more about the magic trick stuff. This year, I'm thinking focusing more on trying to do a comedy routine. And I feel like it might be fun to do just a stand-up set. They usually call it like sets, is a whole routine. And from some of my research that I was looking at, it was suggesting sort of like a 20-minute to a 30-minute set. And you're going to use an opener. And strangely enough, 3 tweener sections, and then a closer. So an opener and a closer with 3 sections in the middle. You could do more, you could do less. So you could do 7 in the middle, or 5 in the middle, an opener and a closer, just like with the magic routine. But your opener should be something that starts out introducing you personally, especially paying attention to and having a little bit of fun with some aspect of yourself that, if there's some part of you that stands out, don't skirt the issue. Just play with that to start with and use it as a way of introducing yourself to the audience. And then from there, it would be topic 1 with 3 bits in it, and then topic 2 with at least 3 bits in it, and then topic 3 with 3 bits in it. And so basically, you would have to do opener, sort of play at who you are and have a little bit of fun with it. Your closer is leading back to or tying together the other bits, and leave them with a really solid good joke, because this is one of those quirks about comedy as far as I understand it. And actually it's something that happens with everything, not just comedy. But the idea is that people remember what you leave them with more than they remember what everything they just went through was. So you could do the worst show you could ever do, but if you leave them laughing, they'll remember it as a good time. So that's one of the things that they talk about a lot with doing oral presentations and things like that, is if you end a thing with something that makes people feel rewarded for being there, they will feel like the whole time that they were there was rewarding for them. And so you always want to close on a way that makes somebody feel like they're rewarded for being there. That closer is the cincher. It fits the deal. It makes the whole sale work. The opener is how you get the audience to consider you somebody they're interested in listening to. And so for public speaking, that's, assert your authority on the topic you're presenting on. Or show them that what you have to offer is of interest to them. In the case of a stand-up comedy routine, the sense is your opener should be something that doesn't oversell what you're offering them. Don't set them up with your best stuff to start off with, but you do want to hook them. So your opener needs to be something that gets them interested or buying into the gag. So in the case of something you might do where you're going to take them down a road where you're going to go through some shocking humor stuff. You want to get them hooked enough that they'll give you permission to touch some sensitive areas. That's a terrible way to phrase that. But like you might like, you don't sit here and go like, the thing about Jesus is, you don't start that off. That you haven't hooked them enough to get them to play along with you. And so you need to set them up, give them a little bit of warning, and let them know that if they take your hand and you lead them into a new territory, that they chose to go with you. You don't want to spring it on a bear trap on them. I think there's Bill Burr is somebody who does a few things that really ruffles feathers, but he never just crash lands on an unsuspecting audience. The closest you get to that is when he did a Saturday Night Live presentation, but he didn't even crash land on that one. He started out standard comedic stuff and worked his way into setting up oh, he just went there. But you knew who he was when you were going in. So you knew that he was going to probably hit with some punches. And you were waiting for those punches. And your opener sets people up to know, oh, this guy's going to be delivering some punches because he talks about who he is and where he's going. So running a stand-up comedy, you have to really kind of, it's that sort of, there's a writer's note on how to start telling a story. And those writer notes suggest that you need to establish your setting right away. You set up who your character is within the first few paragraphs, and then you set up the situation they're in and what it means for the rest of the story coming forward. Within all of that has to happen within the first 3 pages. No matter how long your novel is, your first 3 pages have to set up where you are within the first paragraph, who your main character is, and what it is about them that's interesting, that hooks you, has to be done within the first 5 paragraphs. And by the end of the first page or 2, at most, you need to set up what the actual rest of the story is going to be. And you kind of have to do something similar for stand-up comedy. At least that's what it looks like. Like I said, I've never done this before, so I have no idea what I'm actually doing. But all the suggestions seem to imply that's the best way to go forward. So your opener has to be that first few pages that set up the rest of the set. And then topic 1, topic 2, and topic 3 don't have to be anywhere related to each other. You can literally treat it almost like, again, like writing a comedic version of CSI, where they'll have a plot 1, plot 2, and at some point you can link those plots together at the end. So really this is sort of like a 5-act play. Act 1 is the introduction. Act 2 is the setup of the scenario. Act 3 is sort of Actually, let's pull that up so we can get an actual expert opinion on what a 5-act play is. I can't say for sure that I've done a lot of playwright stuff. So Act 1 is prologue, introduction of character and setting. Act 2 is conflict, the situation you're be confronting. Act 3 is your rising action towards the point of climax. Act 4 is falling action, the resolution of the conflict and the climax. And then Act 5 is the sort of moral of the story. They're wrapping it up and telling them what they got through the experience. So I guess in a comedic sense, what we'd probably have to do is establish your setting, establish your character. So who am I and where are we when we start, and where are we going is the Act 2. The sort of where is this going to take us, and set it up in such a way that you see it coming. And then it becomes the major climax of the situation, the what do they call it? The rising action. And from there, we hit the crescendo of the punchlines of the parts that we've been playing with so far. And then from there, taking you back down, bringing you back into the real world. And then at the end of it, sort of tie all that back into where we're going from here. The moral of the story, the experience. Now, maybe that's just me overthinking things, but I think that's potentially a useful structure to build around. But I am also going to admit that I kind of wish we had more old school sort of lost comedic arts. So what I mean by this is things like the Smothers Brothers. Like old school comedic stuff that isn't done anymore. Like we could do something like a Red Skeleton or Rodney Dangerfield kind of stuff if we really wanted to. But I mean, maybe I could play with some of that as just like a trying some of that out. But I feel like we miss a little bit from the old style of comedic stuff. So they were the Smothers Brothers were folk singers, musicians, and comedians. Their double act was performing folk songs, which usually led to arguments between the siblings. And Tom's signature line was, "Mom always liked you best." Tommy, the elder of the two, acted slow, and Dick, the straight man, acted superior. Okay. So, but I mean, at the same kind, it's a double act is really what they're calling it. Comedy duo is a form of comedy originating in the British music hall tradition and the American vaudeville, in which two comedians perform together as a single act. Pairings are typically long-term, in some cases for the artist's entire career. Double acts perform on stage, television, and film. Okay, the humor is often derived from uneven relationships between two partners. And one is the straight man, and usually portrayed as reasonable and serious, while the other, the funny man, the banana man, or the comic, is portrayed as funny, less educated and less intelligent, silly or unorthodox. And the audience, the reason this format, it's suggesting it here too, which I thought was interesting. The audience often often identifies with one of the two types. So it gives them space to play around with. So, like, if you have a single comedian doing a single routine where they have that intelligent, intellectual, witty, thinking kind of comedian role, which is what you see a lot of right now. Like, George Carlin did some of that kind of stuff, although his was a little more rough around the collar. Louis C.K. does some of that kind of stuff. These types of comedians will oftentimes do, like, when you really think about it, like, they're talking to the audience to try to get them to think about things that the comedian has spent time thinking about. It's sort of like an intellectual teacher lesson. And that's good for a certain type of audience, but it can also be alienating to somebody who doesn't think about those kinds of things, and those people don't necessarily identify with the comedian as easily. Whereas the duo, you can also have the other side of that, where you have, like, the Banana Man is what they called him in that article I looked at. And that Banana Man is really the doof. And there are a few of those comedians that are still around where they portray themselves as the bumbling boob who screws things up all the time and doesn't understand why it's funny. And you can sometimes get some members of the audience along for the ride where they can identify with somebody whose life just, yeah, I get it. It's funny because it's weird. Like, life is really just that messed up sometimes. Like, you get it when somebody talks about the stupid thing they did this past weekend, because we've all done stupid things. You can kind of identify with that. But you're going to lose people who think, like, what an idiot that this is what they're doing. But when you have them as a duo, the audience can identify with one, both, or the other. And I feel like there's something missing in some of our comedy where we don't have that play anymore. I wish I could be a duo. I wish I could do that duo comedy routine. That would be fun to try to do. I mean, theoretically I could do a me versus me sort of routine where I play both the straight man and the banana man. I like that term, the banana man. I don't know. Who am I likely to be? If I go forward, do I do a banana man routine or do I do a straight man routine? I know I can be pedantic and professorial in a certain way. I can come across very much like the professor from Gilligan's Island. So I could possibly do a routine like that. Or I have no problem poking fun at my own inadequacies and weirdness. And I could easily play up the oblivious weirdo that would fit a Banana Man routine. And I feel like we see less of that on stage. Like, I feel like that would be more fun to explore. I'm not sure how I would do it. I'm going to see if I can look up types of comedians. Comedic genres. aggressive humor, alternative comedy, anecdotal comedy, anti-humor, a type of indirect humor that involves joke teller delivering something which is intentionally not funny or lacking an intrinsic meaning, dark comedy, blue comedy, which is typically sexual in nature and or profane language, sometimes using gender or race both in types of humor, burlesque, nonsensical or ridiculous treatment. Burlesque is nonsensical or ridiculous treatment of serious work of art, music, literature, or theater to make a statement. Character comedy. Maybe character comedy. Deadpan, not strictly a style of comedy, is telling jokes without a change in facial expression or change in emotion. Cringe comedy is not on my platter. I am not doing cringe comedy. Heritage comedy, no. Improv comedy. I could do improv comedy, but that's not sort of what the idea is. Inside humor, insult comedy, no. Mockumentary, comedic music, observational comedy, pokes fun at everyday life, often by inflating the importance of trivial things or by observing the silliness of something that society accepts as normal. Sort of, maybe. Observational comedy seems to be the style of, it says George Carlin, Cheech and Chong, Jerry Seinfeld, Louis C.K. There's also one-line jokes. Tommy Cooper, Rodney Dangerfield. Okay. Physical comedy. I'm not up for slapstick. Prop comedy could be fun. There's a Carrot Top, Gallagher, The Amazing Jonathan. That could be fun to do. Shock humor, not so much. We're not doing sitcom. Sketch comedy. No, that's more like storytelling. Spoof, parody, surreal comedy, topical comedy, satire. Ventriloquism could be funny, but I don't have the skill for it. Wit and wordplay. Groucho Marx, William Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, Woody Allen. Actually, if you go look at certain movies, I kind of love, if you go back and watch like Airplane or what are some others like that? Airplane, Hot Shots, Lethal Weapon. Those kinds of movies. That sort of absurdly dorky humor, I absolutely adore. Now, there is a fair amount of slapstick and skit comedy involved in that. But the things that I really, really like, if you ever watch, I think it's Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2, is the commanding officer in that is, I believe, played by Lloyd Bridges. And, oh God, he's just hilarious. Like, the thing that immediately pops to my mind is they're standing in a control tower at an Air Force base or on a aircraft carrier, and the jets are taking off, and they are so loud. He goes, "Wow, that was loud." And one of the officers offers him a pair of earplugs. He goes, "This will help with the noise, sir." He goes, "Thank you." Drinks a cup of water to swallow the earplugs, thinking they're pills. And it's just like, the stupidity of that is hilarious. And the presentation, the timing, the act of it is just one of the best things in the entire world. And he does things like that throughout the whole movie and its sequel. And if there was a way to do that sort of thing in a stand-up comedy type of way, in all probability, it's going to be something along the lines of telling anecdotal stories, made up stories probably. So telling a story about an experience where I communicate really well that I have no clue, and I'm a bumbling boob as I tell this story, that the audience will get it from what I'm telling them and laugh at the fact that I am so clueless as I haven't gotten it myself. That to me would be a lot of fun to do. I mean, it's totally making a lot of fun of myself. And at a certain point, you are going to end up being typecast as that bumbling idiot at a certain point. So any role you do for any future comedy, if it's not in that same vein, it's going to send your audience askew. They come in potentially knowing your previous work, and if you're completely different, they can't go with you. It's a hard right. It's just too much of a sharp turn. But I'm trying to think, like, you could almost say like a Jim Carrey or a Will Ferrell has some of those aspects, but they are more frantic and a little bit more of cringe involved in their style. I don't know. I do think that's got to be the way I'm going to go forward with it. I want to see more of that airplane kind of comedy, and I don't know how I'll pull it off, and maybe I won't succeed at getting that type down. But if I use it as a starting place, maybe I will find something that works for my style and way along that way. I mean, yeah, I just keep thinking of that Lloyd Bridges routine where he plays that commanding officer, and at some point he goes to do something and he whams his head down on the desk, and somebody goes, "Are you all right, sir?" And he goes, "Yes, of course I'm all right. Why? What have you heard?" just that delivery. Like, he doesn't get that they're worried that he just banged his head, because it isn't even occurring to him as a problem. But he's aware that maybe somebody doesn't think he's all there, and he doesn't want them to think that, so he's defensive about it. Like, that delivery is just so good. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to play with some of that, because to me, like, that self-deprecation involved in that is fun. It's silly, and it doesn't attack anybody else. It's just me being silly. I do some of that kind of stuff where at work I would do some goofy things with customers. I would one I did during Thanksgiving was have a thanky hapsgiving, and I would just deadpan deliver it, and people would go, and you too. Not half of them either didn't realize what I said, or were so used to reflexively saying you too that they didn't know how to back out of doing that. But I don't think there were a lot of them that really understood what I had said. They're just so used to hearing things in a different sequence that they just assumed that's what I said. I said thanky hapsgiving, not happy Thanksgiving. And it just, some of it just missed them completely. But I walked over to my boss at one point and I said, I can't tell if people are just being polite or if they haven't noticed. And she goes, oh no, what are you doing? And I told her, I said, I'm saying thanky hapsgiving. And she goes, what? I said, it's Happy Thanksgiving with the two starts of the phrases reversed. And she started laughing. It's like, sometimes I worry about you. And I go, I worry about me too, because I have to live with myself. And, I share a house with myself. And if I have to, if I go too sane, I don't know if I'll be able to live with myself. That was what I said. It's like, if I go too sane, I don't know if I'll be able to live with myself. And she just cackled her whole way through the afternoon. Like that, I wasn't attacking anybody. Nobody should feel stupider or dumber because of what I've said or done. Nobody should feel like they've been challenged on their stances or beliefs. It is literally me just being a goof and having a little bit of fun at my goofiness. And I feel like that is my preferred way of having fun, is where nobody's attacked, nobody feels attacked. And to a certain degree, even when I'm making fun of myself, I'm not doing it in such a way where other people feel it's okay to make or mock me in any way, make fun of me or mock me. It's not an invitation to call me an idiot. It's a chance to just look at me and go like, oh, what is wrong with you? But not in an accusatory sense of like actually thinking I am a broken, twisted, wrong person. Just goofing around. So I feel like that is probably the root of where I'm going to play. Now, doing those kinds of standalone gags at work, where I do some self-deprecation and some just plain serious goofiness, that's one kind of piecemeal assembly. I could assemble a bunch of individual tricks of that. But that Lloyd Bridges style, that airplane sort of, Shirley, you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Like that kind of like pun play goofiness works best as part of a story being told, as it interrupts the story with a just kind of like, wait, what? What? So I feel like that Lloyd Bridges as the commanding officer on an aircraft carrier, like that background context of the narrative that flows around them, into which you seed those stories of breaking somebody's ability to just keep going with you. Like an airplane. That's where I developed my drinking problem, and he can't get his cup to go to his mouth. Like that's the story is he went on a trip to follow this girl. He struggled. He felt heartbroken after a certain set of circumstances. It's a story. It's a good story to follow. It's a story that some of us can all relate to, having certain events in our lives that happen to us. And then somebody could easily imagine that that's where somebody develops a drinking problem. But it's that moment of saying, like, he had his heart broken and he developed a drinking problem, that you then slip the drinking problem into being technically a drinking problem, but it's not what we were thinking. It breaks that and makes a joke of it. That sort of, it's beautiful if done right. And I feel like if we do this right, that 5-act play style of build a narrative into which you can structure the gags as part of the following the narrative, but giving breaks in the middle of it just because it just disrupts the ability. I feel like that's what I want to do. I feel like as we sit here and brainstorm this tonight, I feel like I've got to do that. And so now I've got a project ahead of myself to plan and figure this one out. But I'm optimistic and a little bit hopeful for this, because I think I could have a lot of fun doing this kind of comedy. And so that 5-act play structure would be I'd have to build a narrative that follows that 5-act play structure and then use that for the intro, the outro, set those up, and then each of the pieces in the middle, the 3 pieces in the middle, structure them along the comedic pattern of topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, each with at least 3 bits in them. So minimum 9 bits for the middle bit, an intro of myself and the setting and the game we're about to get together on, and an outro that ties it all up nicely with a killer joke that always leaves them remembering the whole experience as a wonderful experience. I think that's the structure I need to do. Oh, God. That's the recipe card that I'm going to be working on. It's not an easy task. And I know some guys who are YouTubers who have done some of the comedic stuff that I could share some of that with after I create some stuff. And I can get their feedback. They've done the circuits. They know what it's like. They can give me a little bit of feedback. And I have to be open to the fact that I am going to bomb and I'm going to do terrible on my first round of attempt. But that's fine. I'm not a professional comedian. It's not the end of my career if I don't do it well. But I am going to have some fun doing it. I hope I get something at least passively fun. Oh. Okay, so that's sort of out of the way. We've got a few minutes left. I was meaning to ask, did you ever get to check out the Laura Comp videos, and what did you think? Did I oversell? Were they good? She is, I think, one of my favorite people on YouTube. I don't watch as much of her as I used to, but I still love her technique and her skill at what she does. That and Simone Yates, the queen of shitty robots. I like them both. Simone is sort of not as often posting. I know she does some a little here and there still, but she went through some health problems herself a little while back, and it sort of derailed her. And I get it. I totally get that. I have been dealing with a couple of weeks of really not being in a creative mood because of health problems. I get it. It's not easy to deal with. But hopefully you're doing well. And I'm hoping that the rest of this month of dabbling with writing comedic routines lifts my mood more. Because this so far tonight has been a blast. I'm having fun just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. Yeah. This could be a lot of fun. I don't imagine this being a career I move into, but I could see doing once or twice doing a little bit of this. Yeah, I do recall you said you had some hearing loss, so it probably doesn't make music as much of an entertainment source for you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there are all sorts of fun. Like, I'm already starting to think about what I'm going to try to do for the photography project this year. I'm still going to do the book, try to compose a book of photography, but what type of photography am I going to do? That's sort of still in the back of my brain, because I still am working towards making this year a year of projects that I get just loads of interesting, fun things done in this year. Because to me, that's the thing, is like, I don't want this year to feel like last year, where it felt like everything was just on hold. Like I couldn't do anything interesting, go anywhere interesting. And it's like I'm a homebody. I don't go out a lot. I did travel across the country for a project that there's still pieces of I need to finish up and work on. But that's sort of like there was nowhere to go. It wasn't so much that I couldn't go anywhere. It was there was nowhere to go. The whole world stopped. There was nothing out there to go to. And at the same time, I was still stuck going to a job on a regular basis that drained me and left me without any kind of inspiration or ideas for my own living. And that was sort of stressful for me last year. And on top of all that, losing all the stuff that I'd worked on some of the previous year to computer crashes, that still hurts. But all of that has sort of made it feel like a whole year is just eclipsed all that time. And most of what I'm working on for the photo project is going to be, I want it to be photos done in camera, no modification afterwards. What I've been thinking of is if I can get my camera to work. So I'm always a little confused when I watch some of these videos back, because I'm responding to your comment off to the side, and I don't always see the comment off to the side. It might switch what I'm talking about. So talking about the photo project that I'm doing in May, the Making a Photo album, or a photo book that I will publish on a website or something like that. The goal for that is to do a series of, I think I said it was like 100 or 150 photographs. I'll have to go back and look at my list. Let's see if we can pull that up right now. Nope, don't pop it open. I wasn't asking you to open it. My February challenge, nope. So basically what I was looking to do was, I must have tucked that away somewhere else. Might be on a different computer. Jeez, I hope not. Nope, that's pictures. I want documents. So the photo project, my hope was to do a series of pictures around a theme. So you could go for a walk every day in a new area and take photographs of the wildlife or the landscape or that kind of stuff. Or you could do macro photography of things like seeds, bugs, and that sort of stuff. Or scientific photography, where you take a picture of plasma globes and chemical reactions and close-ups of drips in water and the patterns they produce, light effects using different things like that. You could do a series of photographs that are themed around food. You could do portraiture. You could do like there are just like a bunch of different types of photography you can do. And where is my list of yearly projects? That's the inspired content play button list. That's there. Game designs. It has to be in here somewhere. Huh. Alrighty, well, I will have to look for it after tonight. But yeah, basically just like, do I want to do like you can go to a local brook and do stacks of stones in these nice little uh, balancing stacks and take a picture of those with the waterfall behind them kind of scenes. Or you can do the sort of, this is a cozy breakfast picture where you have a picture of like a fall day. Well, since I'll be doing it in May, it'll be a spring day or whatever, where it's raining outside. You've got a cup of tea with steam rising out of it and some snacks on the table and a good book open to a certain page with a bookmark in it. And just the sense of like a picture that makes you feel something. And you could do an entire series of photos like that. You can do an entire series of photos that are different areas you've gone on a hike. I could probably do like an Instagram page where I could post the photos to run through as a series, or I can post them on the YouTube, the Facebook panel, the Facebook page for this channel. Or I could do a slideshow on here and just show off the photographs as a slideshow. But the goal for the project is to get enough to make a photo book that I can publish and go through a printer for, so that I could make a book of my photography and sell it. And I think at one point we even talked about, I did while rambling about the idea of the projects, I did a look through on Amazon to see photo books, how big they usually are. And I think the smallest one we saw was 150 pages. Where is all that stuff? No, that's not what I was looking for. Okay, let's just pull up the February one. Did I put the rest of it on here? Monthly challenges. Okay, so the May is making a photo book. 150 photos in a book and publish by the end of the month. So I would do probably, and one of the things that has occurred to me to possibly do for that is to do a series of, like, have you seen the photographs that are out there where people take the miniature people from model train sets and they make them working on human-sized objects? So you would have something on the order of a railroad train figure character looking like an athletics, like they're working in track and field or something like that, and have them have this pin as a pole or a javelin that they're throwing on the field for athletics. And so you have them using everyday objects that are huge in comparison to them, but make it look like they're people doing activities with them. Like, I've seen some photos like that. I've seen some people who take action figures and toys and put them in interesting like scenes, like they're acting out certain scenes or something. And like you could do costumes and poses and all sorts of fun things like that. It's interesting to see what's out there as a photo project series. Um, I I haven't decided what direction to go with on that one yet. Um, yeah, I don't think I have. I know at some point I broke some things down further to potentially imagine where I could go with it next. I just don't know. I don't know that I ever really came to a conclusion as to what I thought I was definitely going to do. Because I was looking at the possibility of doing some of that scientific photography. So like showing off science experiments in action through photography. But I don't think I ever fully came to a sense of all the details of what I was going to do. Okay, so no, that's not it. Like I wonder where I left those notes. I need to organize my notes way better than I do. I know I say that every time, but no, that's not there. So it's got to be in another file somewhere. I'm going to see if I can find it after I hang up tonight. Because I do think there's something to be said for having a plan before I get started in it. Because as much fun as it is to brainstorm here, that's how we get an hour-long me rambling and looking things up on web pages as I talk to you. And I don't think that's as much fun for everybody else as it is for me. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things I could do, and I just haven't really narrowed it down to what I think would work best for where I'm going with my project. I don't necessarily have to do just one, but it's going to be weird if I do a stacked set of stones in a river next to a picture of a breakfast that I made, followed by a picture of action figures running through firecrackers going off like a war zone. Like, that's a very confusing jumble. I'll have to figure it out. But for now, we are approaching 1 hour, and that is more than enough time for one night. We've got more nights coming. So hopefully you had a happy Easter or whatever you may be celebrating or not. I will catch you on, what is it, Tuesday, I guess? Yeah, Tuesday. And I think we could probably talk a little bit more about the photography project as we approach it. But I'm going to also see what I can do about that comedic stand-up routine. See if I can flesh that out a little bit better. I have no idea what I'm doing with it yet, but most of what we've said here tonight is probably going to be where it's built around. For now, I'm going to say take care and have a good night. All right, catch you later.